Welcome to the DragonShip. Happy Saturday, everybody. Here we are on Thor's DragonShip. Guys, we're about to set sail on a really exciting episode. Welcome to our panel show. I'm going to bring up the panel in a minute. We're going to talk about today the second part in a three-part series. Rollo Tomassi's Iron Rules, the 9 Iron Rules. We covered 3 of them last week, and it was, dare I say, our best episode yet, because one thing about these Iron Rules, we're going to cover 3 more today in today's discussion, talking about our experiences in real life and why these concepts are very important for every man to understand, and why some men really have a hard time swallowing these rules. They're so bitter, and in some cases, so cruel feeling because of the things that we were told since we were young men, and how they don't actually match up with how reality works, and why these are important. And guess what? They're not evil in any way. They're not good in any way. They're just reality, and it's codified in these rules, and it's set out so that you become your own mental point of origin and you take care of yourself. And when you take care of yourself, you can take care of others. You meet your primary drives. And by meeting your primary drives, you're able to help others in life, become social, become more of a man, become responsible for yourself and your own actions, and take accountability. And part of these rules is really you taking accountability. Today, it was about, I don't know, 8 or 9 years when these rules finally sank in on me. It was quite a revelation, because I had thoughts all around these things for many years and had made very many mistakes in relationships, in my life, how I discipline myself. And I read these rules and I was amazed that in just a short little paragraph that so much thought was put into it. And it's very simple. It's like an equation. It's like E equals MC squared. It's an equation almost. And we call these rules, they're almost laws. Some, they're guidelines. To others, they're rules. But it doesn't change the fact that generally these things are very good for men to understand. And the very first one we talked about was frame, which was so important, you know. So keep listening with an open mind, and there's going to be some great value that's brought on today. I'm going to bring up my panel, which is an amazing amazing squad of Vikings joining me on this dragon ship, setting sail on stormy seas today with these 3 iron rules. We're going to cover today number 4, which is never under any circumstances live with a woman you aren't married to or are not planning to marry within 6 months. Number 5, never allow a woman to be in control of the birth. And number 6, women are utterly incapable of loving a man in the way that a man expects to be loved. Yep, that one's going to be pretty controversial, and we'll spend some great time on it with my good buddy, Glenn Laurence, Andre, Mark Daniels, Phil Foster, and we got Huds in travel, so we're just going to be seeing Huds on his icon until something comes up. So with that, guys, just do a quick roundtable on how you're doing, what's going on, and announce your channel and where people can find you. Go with Glenn.
What's going on, everybody? You know me, I'm Glenn Laurence, actor, podcaster now. You could catch me here on the DragonShip, or you catch me on my own channel under Glenn Laurence. Definitely check it out. Me and Huds dropped 2 new videos recently, or 1 new video. No, 2 new videos recently in the past week. You guys definitely want to check out. And we're actually going to get into a little bit of what we talked about today on rule number 6. So it's going to be interesting. And next to the bald, handsome guy to my right,
Phil Foster Fitness. Tell us about yourself.
What's going on, guys? Can y'all hear me okay?
Oh, what a great voice. Yeah.
Yes, sir. I'm looking forward to these 3 rules today, the Iron Rules of Tomassi. This is going to be a great episode. If you're in the live chat, so glad you guys smashed that like button. I'm looking forward to seeing some reaction and interaction in that chat today. I'm going to actually be commenting myself. So if you guys got any questions, hit me up. I'm Phil Foster, owner of philfosterfitness.com, and just crushing life, man. Blessed to be in this on this panel with Thor here and the rest of these gentlemen. and really looking forward to this discussion today.
Fantastic. Huds, go ahead and say hi. I know that you and Glenn are collaborating. I've done a couple of really nice episodes. I appreciate what you guys are doing, and we'll bring more and more men and even women into the fold and start to learn the truth about male-female interactions. Huds?
Absolutely. Yeah. Thanks. Thanks for having me again. I am in travel, going to a Renaissance fair. It's going to be fun. But I still wanted to hop on and talk a little bit about some of this stuff. So what's going on? Yeah, Glenn and I are doing a lot of collaborations, probably coming out with something at least once a week, if not multiple times a week. And then Andre and I are very deep in the weeds. We're 2 weeks away from our course launch, and you're going to be seeing us across a lot of different channels as we promote it and get started. So look out for that.
Oh, that sounds fantastic. Huds, do you guys have any way of signing up for that right now? If you have a link, drop it to me privately so I can get that up on screen when the time comes. All right.
All right. Yeah, I think what we're going to do is next week is when we're going to reveal the link. I mean, the site's built, everything is ready to go, but we're not releasing it yet. So it's kind of hiding.
How exciting. That's fantastic. Mark Daniels, Mark's Inspiration. Thanks for joining us. Where are you at today?
I am in beautiful Louisiana, Missouri in the mountains, working on the job site here, close to the Mississippi River. We're only about a mile away from the Mississippi River. On the other side is Illinois, so I wanted to join you guys today. Looking forward to this. I'll only be here a short time. Last week, we had the beautiful Coach Oriana on the podcast. Tonight, we're going to be talking about the value of fitness at 6 p.m. Central Standard Time. We're working on getting some merch on the channel. We're still waiting. We did a test run, and we're waiting for that to go through before we put it up for sale. So that's what I got going on right now.
Oh, that's fantastic. And Mark's also a published author of some great books, and you can find his books on Amazon, right?
That's correct. Thank you.
Fantastic. Andre, tell me about yourself. I mean, you're kind of a new face around here, but you've got a big fire underneath you, and you got some great experience in the hypnosis and NLP world, helping men for many years. And it's good to see you starting to broadcast. Thanks for joining us, Andre.
Thanks for having me on, Thor. Thanks, guys. Everybody here, I appreciate the time and the energy. We're all going to crush this today. I do NLP and hypnosis. I help guys get over their approach anxiety and fight cultural Marxism, as my two great-grandfathers on different continents and different countries. This is about you. It's a war for your mind, a war for your life, but also the happy side of it, to get the ladies you want and fight off all the negativity and make things happen for you in your life.
You know, that's fantastic. One of these days, we're going to have a conversation about that too, because ultimately, I believe that feminism is completely rooted in Marxism at its very core soul. And that in and of itself, Marxism is detrimental to human soul thriving. It is a suppression system, and it brings everybody to the same level. And while many are adequately happy to be at the same level because the lower level gets lifted to the middle, the top level gets squashed to the middle as well, and there's no room for improvement. Ultimately, if you're looking at something like that, although it feels good. But guess what? Feels come, feels go. What does our good friend Laurence say? Fuck your feelings. Anyway, let's move along here. Thank you, Andre. I appreciate that. Marxist fighter. Fellow Marxist fighter. Hey, I'm out here behind enemy lines in California. So there you go. Talk about that someday. So let's talk about this. Guys, this is serious. And I have experience here. And I'll give you some experience. I was married once before. And the story for me was, I was a young guy, very horny, interested in the poon. Poon was everything to me, but I had to survive and I was working, and man, I just had to work so hard to acquire the poon, right? And all of a sudden there was poon available to me, and that poon was losing her place to live, or so I thought she was losing her place to live. In reality, she wasn't. She was just wanting to acquire a place to live. And I'm thinking, man, I don't have to lease this cow anymore. I can, have the milk for free. I can have it available on tap, and it's so good. We're having this wild sex all the time. Everything is so exciting. Man, this seems like such a win-win for me. So I moved her in with me. And it seemed like such a great idea at the time. And then that brings me to the rule. The Iron Rule of Tomassi, number 4. Never under any circumstance live with a woman you aren't married to or not planning to marry within 6 months. So I myself made several mistakes. I let the little head that do the thinking for the big head. And here's the problem. I didn't vet properly because I didn't know how to. All I could think of is, man, I can make some money. We seem to get along. We have fantastic sex. She says she loves me. I'm the only one. And therefore, this whole cohabitation started to exist. She quit her job. I worked hard. We never talked about these things. I provided for everything. And within, well, I don't know, 6 months, I wasn't too happy because the sex had fallen off to nothing, right? And I wanted to break up, but she had nowhere to go. She had no job. So this was a horrible situation, trying to extract myself from this at this point. There was really no commitment up front other than to live together. Hey, it's just a roommate. We'll just be roommates. We're going to try that. Anybody ever try that? Let's just be roommates, a girl and I. Guys, having girl roommates is a stupid idea. Your biology and her biology will cause major problems. You can say what you want. There's many women out there that they're modern and say, I could have a boy roommate, no problem. Ding dong, not at all. You know, it's just not good for your psyche. It's not good for your biology. It is just trouble waiting to happen. And it exposes men today to extreme risk. So anyway, my story from many moons ago is that this whole roommate thing really didn't work well. I'm working a lot. I'm providing a lot. So the breakup happened. She went back with her parents. About 2 weeks later, you know, I'm sure she's in her ovulatory phase being super nice to me. And, you know, I haven't had any in a while because I'm working. I'm not out there. And we kind of meld back together for a few times. And what do you suppose happened after that? The pregnancy lockdown. And we're going to talk about the next rule. So, yeah, there's a pregnancy involved, right? Oh, it's accidental. You know what? She was on the pill. Everything was good, right? She's so trustworthy. She's on the pill. There's like 41 different contraceptives. She knows her body. I know myself. I've been doing this so long. No way. I got it dialed in. How do you suppose that happened? I took all my pills. I don't know what happened. Think that's true? Long story short, that was the beginning of a long nightmare. Did I do the right thing? Well, I figured I had to marry her now, right? You know, didn't last too long, guys. Didn't even last 5 years. So there's some truth in this rule. Never under any circumstances live with a woman you aren't married to or not planning to marry within 6 months. When I put myself back on the dating market, I had 2 very small boys, a toddler and one that was ready for kindergarten. And so I am raising children. So my approach to dating as a man like that there is no shared custody. It's me. That woman left. Bye. I'm doing it all. So it was actually easier because she was more of a problem. Anyway, it is what it is. You learn your lessons, right? Her reasoning for leaving was she wasn't having any fun and she had lost the purpose in her life after 2 small boys. The reality of that story is her friends she was hanging out with, young women, she was missing out on all the fun and she didn't want to miss out. It's the truth. And so when I did get back on that dating market, I started looking for a woman that could be a good mother. That is very difficult because unless she has children, it's kind of hard to gauge. And so when I started dating with that in mind, I did find some candidates, and the whole plan was it's going to be a solid 18 months of vetting, and there will be no live-in situation. There will be the situation of, especially if I found one that had kids, which I ended up doing. She had even younger children, and basically in the same situation that I was as far as mates, out of the picture, completely gone. And in that particular situation, there was no cohabitation at all until marriage. So if we were going to dive in the pool, we had to dive in that deep end and start swimming, not putting our toes in the water. So this rule, I really understand it, but I also have a lot of sympathy for any man out there that wants to live with their girlfriend. I really do. And my particular views on marriage are really straightforward. Today, I don't think a state marriage is valuable to any man at all, and I would never put myself in that situation. I've talked about this on the private lectures before, is that a covenant marriage, or I call it a ceremonial marriage, are very valuable, I think. To make that kind of a commitment, if you want to raise a family, I think it is the way to do it. And that's whether there's one wife or more than one wife. That kind of a marriage is a big deal. Not a state marriage, but one in which you write your own vows before a greater power that you can publicly acknowledge to you and her family and your family and make that kind of a commitment. That's a huge one. Now, if you don't do that, what ends up happening with you, at least from my perspective, and I'll get everybody to comment, is you do what I ended up doing is you take your girlfriend, you move her in with you. Guess who's on the lease? You are. Oh, no problem. I got the lease. Tell me I got the lease, Thor. I can kick her out anytime. Guess what? There's not a state in this union that you can kick a woman out that's not on the lease. Do you know why? She now is a resident of that location. She gets one piece of mail and shows it to the cops. She's not going anywhere. You are, especially if you yelled at her.
Mhm.
Okay. So to get her out at this point, even though you're paying all of the bills, you can't even evict her. You have to use the squatting rules in most states. It's not going to take you 3 months. It's going to take you 3 to 6 months with attorneys to get her ass out. And she's not even on the lease. Okay, now let's reverse it. Let's say she is on the lease. Well, you aren't kicking her out there either. At least she's half responsible for it. But here's what you did when you signed that lease or you brought her in. You committed yourself to only being hers, no matter what she does, and providing for her for at least that duration of the lease. At least you made a commitment like that. So is that really what you wanted? I guess maybe you could say she's on the lease and I'm the squatter, and you could have some sort of advantage there. I understand that. And, and I love this set of rules because we're going to talk about love at the end. We are such idealists. And most of us do want to have that one woman. And considering the state of marriage is a cohabitation, seems like the perfect solution, not only for you, but for her too. But I can tell you this, it immediately removes the mysteries. It removes your ability to vet properly. Everything is now clouded, and you put yourself in a situation where you have bias. You have this prejudgment. You want things to go well, so you'll overlook things that are not going well because you didn't put the time and effort into it. So I think it's important. This is the rule, and we're going to open it up for discussion. You guys agree, disagree, and you tell me. But when you move a girl in as a cohabitation, you are entering essentially a transactional relationship agreement. You're getting something, and she's getting something in return. It's just like the very first man chimp that brought a bunch of bananas back to his group and gave it to a girl, and she ate, and she rewarded him with something. Sex. You're moving her in. Let's be honest about it. You got your on-tap sexual needs met. Love or not. Now, that's not going to last forever. So what do you do after that? It's definitely something. Love comes and it goes. Relationships, they start to decay immediately when you're too close together. So you have to have this ebb and flow. There's this yin and yang. You got to keep some mystery. That's why we say guys have to have game. Most marriages end in failure these days because as soon as it's boring, nature and biology takes over. Why put yourself in such a huge risk until you've done proper vetting? I think that's the spirit of this rule. And could you get around this rule? Absolutely. There's always exceptions to the rule. And I know plenty of people that could fit the exception to this rule. Moved in right away. Things work great. 20 years later, it's fantastic. But I can count dozens and dozens that didn't fit into. Does it change the rule? I personally don't think so. But let's just go over the rule once again. And we'll do it. We'll open it up to the group. Guys, Under what circumstance would you want to live with a woman you aren't married to if you're not planning to marry her? At least let's say in the context you're a covenant or a ceremonial marriage within 6 months. Let's have at it. Who wants to go first?
I'll go first. I'm down. Let's do it.
Yeah.
So here's my take on this whole deal. Okay, I've been married twice. Okay, 2 times. And I'm going to tell you what, the second go around, I dated her 3 years before I married her. Okay, we lived together before we got married. Now, our relationship's a little bit different than most people's relationships. I'm able to date outside of the marriage while she stays loyal to me. And I'll just go ahead and put that out there now. That's why we're still doing good. You know, and so basically, I'm going to tell you guys like this. Here's a deal.
Very honest. Yeah.
Yeah. If you're going to live with a woman, you know, you don't necessarily have to marry her. How loyal is that woman, though? How down is she for you and your mission and what you're trying to build or do in your life? You know, if it's all about her and you're thinking about moving her in, don't do it. That's the first thing right there. If she's down with helping you build whatever you're going to build and she brings value to your life, there's definitely ways around getting stuck in a rut of, you know, that transactional. Yeah, absolutely. Relationships are 100% transactional. I tell my girl that all the time. You know, I say, hey, you know, this relationship is transactional. You do X, Y, Z, I do X, Y, Z. That's how this whole thing works. You know, the big thing is understanding your nature and understanding her nature, right? You know, if you aren't handling your business, you aren't gaming her right, you aren't fucking her enough, you aren't taking care of your business, of course she's going to stray. Okay? So it all boils down to the man in the end. How savage are you going to be in that relationship with her? If you're not going to be a savage, you're going to get walked all over and then you're going to get taken for half, period. You know, I think that inherently, if you are a man and you're handling your business, I think these issues do not come up. That's why sometimes, like you were mentioning earlier in this live stream, Thor, that you know some people that are exceptions to the rule and they've made it 20 years and everything's good. Well, he's probably been handling his business. The primary issue is in this day and age, men don't know how to handle their business. They're adult children in a man's body. They don't know how to talk to women. They don't know how to fuck women. They don't know how to handle themselves in public and social situations. They don't know anything. And that's the beautiful thing about this panel right here, because we've all hit our heads. Trust me, I've been married 2 times. Listen to this information. This rule is epic because here's the thing. If you're going to commit to her and then the sex goes down, why did you move her in there to begin with? You guys got together because you were sexually attracted to each other. You know, holding her at arm's distance, you know, and enjoying her instead of complicating your life might be a better look for you.
So, Phil, we're going to get into something really controversial here, and I love what you just said. Did I cut you off? Did you have one more thing?
No, man. Let's go, baby. Let's go.
Okay, man. I mean, you hit on something really a big deal here. But I think the rule is important because when you do this too soon and you don't have that intention of a commitment, you lose all of your leverage. And when I say leverage, it's all the tools that you have to keep the relationships exciting. Believe it or not, as the man, in order to lead and hold frame, you must condition her to be in your frame. And in order to do that, you must have the tools necessary to not only reward her, but when things go south, you have to have that level setting and boundary setting. When you move them in, you remove your tools, you throw them in the trash. And one of the things you mentioned as far as mystery, excitement, and also one of the most powerful that's unspoken is that high level of sexual competition anxiety that women feel. It drives them crazy, but it also is what gives them the tingles. I secured him against the others. And you keep it alive in a very different way than most men. Only top alpha men usually do this, and you do it without doing it in a secretive manner. Although it can be done in a secretive manner, it can be done in an open manner, you still have tools to your disposal if things go wrong.
100%.
You're still spinning plates. If you move in and you give her all of this, you have eliminated your ability to spin plates unless this is part of your expectations going in. And why would a guy do this? And spinning plates doesn't necessarily mean that you're banging other girls. It's that you're attractive enough that she has a certain level of tension that is there that keeps things very exciting and mysterious, because relationships, when you don't have that, they decay.
Yeah. See, the difference.
Mhm.
Let me tee off of that real quick, just to kind of with that mystery thing, to keep that anxiety in place. I give her full access to my phone.
Yeah.
She sees the text messages. She sees everything. I don't give a fuck. Go for it. Check it out. And that's the thing, right? Is there is no sneaking around or lying. It's just straight up. The agreement is, you're loyal to me and I'm not to you. That's how it is.
Yeah.
If you can't handle those terms, you got to go.
Yeah, absolutely. And I would actually extend this rule even further than if you already have roommates. I would never roommate with a female. I would also never allow any female of age to be living in my household that I wasn't sexually engaged with. Straight up. It's too much stress, too much stuff. There's too many things going on. I wouldn't do it. That's me personally.
Yeah, I think this rule speaks to the vetting process. Like, guys, don't move a woman in unless you have thoroughly vetted her and you are ready to commit to her in a way that is going to be, you're going to be non-exclusive, that you guys are both invested in a life together. You're talking about children, you're talking about, building an empire together, or whatever the case may be, or you see that she contributes to your empire that you're building. Okay, then you give her that. In that don't give women wifely privileges if they're not doing wifely duties, if you have not vetted them properly. I agree with Thor. A covenant in marriage is way better than any marriage involving the state. All right, it's smarter. It keeps both parties honest. All right, because when you have women getting married to guys with the state, they're like, look, I literally heard, my mother told my sister this, and I'll put my mom on blast, no problem. She told my sister that all she has to do is make it to 10 years. I was like, for what? Then she could cash out. In California, 10 years, you get, what is it, like alimony, like lifetime alimony or whatever. I was like, that is foul. That is foul. Yeah. But I think that there's certain circumstances when you find the right person and you vet them properly and you protect yourself and your assets, that a state marriage could be beneficial.
A state marriage?
Yes, including the state involved. I'm talking about, well, I mean, you talked about it before with me privately. There's certain ways to provide benefits and healthcare and stuff like that without the state marriage. Yeah. I'm saying for guys that don't know how to do that, that's where the state marriage would be beneficial.
Right. Yeah. And I'll just briefly, if you don't mind, I'll just say what that is. It is around insurances and power of attorney. You can get around that, but a state marriage really grants you that. And in reality, if you do the tax breakdown now, married or not, there is no advantages anymore. They're gone.
Huds, do you got something to say, buddy? Did we lose Huds?
You know what? I'll jump in here while we're getting him back, because I know you wanted to comment on this. And it leads into the next one, which, guys, when the next one is the next rule is rule 5, and we'll jump back to the number 4, but is never to allow the woman to be in control of birth. Now, interesting fact, when I looked up some of the birth statistics and the outcomes of an unintended pregnancy, in 2011, 42% of unintended pregnancies. Now, that's a nice way to say unwanted, right? Unintended. And I would argue that all pregnancies are intended. Sorry. I mean, unless there's a breakage or there is some sort of a grape situation, right? It's going to happen. It can happen. 58% of those, 42 ended in abortion, and 58% of those ended in birth. And out of all of those that were done, the ones that were most likely to end in birth were the ones that were in a cohabitation relationship. That's in 2011. I don't know if it's changed, but guys, if you're in that spot where you're not ready to marry, they're most likely to, if they do get pregnant, to have the birth than if you are not in that cohabitated situation. So anyways, that's where I think we're at. Huds, did you drop off all the way? Oh, that's too bad. I know he wanted to talk about that a little bit. maybe we can come back to it. Anybody got anything else on this particular rule?
Yeah, I'll
Yeah.
share a little bit on that. I've never lived with anybody in my life, but I've been married. I mean, 4 times I've been married and divorced. So, of course, I live with them. And you talked about the pregnancy. I had a similar thing with what you talked about, Thor. I was married to this woman for several years, and I thought we couldn't have kids. Of course, that was 7 or 8 kids ago. And right when we started splitting up and I left her, she got pregnant miraculously. Well, I knew she was cheating, so I thought, surely it's not mine. Well, needless to say, long story short, I had a test and it did turn out to be my kid because she knew to get a hold of me because of the income situation. And and there you go. I wasn't in control of the birth. Well, I was wanting to have a kid, but at that time I wasn't because we weren't getting along, of course. But as far as living with someone, it's my understanding though, if they get the mail at your place, like you said, they can have you kicked out of the house once they start getting mail there. Now my younger son, had a girl living there with him for quite some time, and they got into it. She started disrespecting him because he quit leading, and he asked her to leave, and she would not leave. I had to go in there and tell her, look, you need to go until you and Henry start getting along better. Fortunately, she left, but she had received mail there. Now, I don't know if she could have did that or not because it was my house and she wasn't there with me, but it's possible. She didn't do that. She was a pretty good girl. They just weren't getting along, so she left. But, so yeah, that thing about letting someone move in and then they start getting mail there, at least in my state, they could go up to the courthouse and it's just that easy and say, you yell at him, you threaten him or whatever. It doesn't have to be true. Police will come and take you out of the house. That's the way it is. Okay, it's that way here because that judge is more concerned about his name getting plastered all over the media if something happens to that girl than he is of putting 100 fathers or husbands out of the house. That'll never make the media. But if that one time if he doesn't put that man out and he happens to do something to her, hurts her, and it gets on the news, he's blackballed. He gets bad mouthed, and he didn't protect the women, etc. So that's kind of my take on it. I never really thought about living with someone. Maybe they could stay a couple days, but I kind of like being by myself. I got the kids, so
it's more and more important. It's more and more important for a young man because they don't realize the risk. Because in reality, all of media, all of feminism say that's not true. It's a fair system. You take every tool you have in your tool bag and throw it away when you cohabit without this sort of commitment and investment from her. And you need the time in order to condition her to be prepared for this or set it up much like Phil has where you have these safeguards in place. I think that's where the rule is. I mean, it's an amazing thing that they can move in with you, get their mail there, not pay a dime.
Yeah.
Except exchange a few maybe weekly kisses and maybe an occasional birthday BJ, and then you could be kicked out of it, but you're still on the hook. You're the leasee. You owe all that money while she's there and may even entertain others in your house.
Yeah, she could do that. Yeah.
And that's not a problem whatsoever. It's such a fair system, guys.
Yeah. Well, his girlfriend wanted him to move in or sign a lease with her, and I advised him not to do it, and he didn't do it. She ended up buying a house. So now he just gets to go over there and be with her at the house, but he doesn't stay. He spends the night there once in a while. So really it worked out. I was able to advise him in the direction. But if I hadn't have been there to talk to him about that, he probably would have signed a lease or bought a house because she wanted him to buy a house. And she was starting to talk about baby. She's 22, see? But my son's only, he's only 19. But they've been dating since he was actually underage, and they were both underage, and she turned 18. So we had a little leverage there if she wanted to start any trouble, because at that time she was of age and could have been a problem for her. I would never pull that card unless she pulled something on him, like tried to, kick him out of the house or get the house or whatever. So, but yeah, those are all things that most young men have no idea. They're just thinking about how much in love they are. Oh God, yeah, let's move in and, we can work together. And they don't know or take time to look at the legal ramifications. And I've been through this crap 4 times with divorce and custody and all that. And I'm telling you what, in my state for sure, she can almost be an axe murderer, and they're going to believe everything she says. Yes. And they're not going to believe anything you say. I mean, at least that was my experience. And I've talked to other men, in my state, and that's been that's the majority of experiences of men and women in the court systems here in Missouri.
Yeah, countless men I've spoken to.
Yeah.
As well. And another an underlying thing here that's going to bleed right into the next rule. I'm going to go to Huds next. He wants to comment here for sure. But one that bleeds into the next rule is how amazing when you cohabit with a woman and you start that breakup and she's not ready for the breakup, there is most likely a pregnancy coming your way.
Yeah.
If you don't follow the next rule we're going to talk about. It just happens too frequently, you know. Even if you think you can't have children when you're infertile, it's amazing how this happens.
What happened to me?
Not just you, thousands and hundreds of thousands of men. I'm sad.
Yeah, I was told I had a low sperm count by the doctor, and lo and behold, it was, like I said, it's been 7 or 8 kids later, I think.
No. She went into heat essentially.
Yeah.
Right there, you know? That's the problem.
Into heat.
You got to learn sperm count, but strong soldiers.
Yeah,
it only takes one, right?
Let's call ovulation for what it is.
Friggin' Mark sneezes and she gets pregnant.
I thought about hiring myself out as a surrogate father, but using my kids as advertisement.
There you go.
Put them on the sign.
Why do you think they wear red dresses? They call heat for a reason. MPJ, brother. MPJ. Okay.
Huds, are you there, buddy?
On, the Iron Rule of Tomassi 4.
Yes, sir.
Hit us.
Yeah. Yeah. Can you hear me all right? Because I've been going in and out of certain dead zones.
I can hear you.
Yep.
Okay. Awesome. So, I have interesting stories on this. I've done it once already, where I moved in with a woman and I rushed it, and I ended up getting arrested for false DV charges. And
You got arrested for a false DV charge? You're breaking up.
You're goddamn right.
You there? Oh.
yeah.
Okay.
Breaking up.
Yeah, he's breaking up. You know, I kind of know the story. He's froze again. So unfortunately, we're not getting the story right now. But he did move in with a gal, Hurry, and I think he's got a great story to share with us about why this is important. Hopefully, we can come back to that pretty soon. Andre, you got any input on this role?
Yeah, I wanted to say something. In Huds, the minute you get to a better place, I'll let you cut in because I really want to hear your story, and I know everybody else wants to hear it because I know you have a lot of valuable information. I will say this, Thor, you mentioned it on the last one, and earlier as you started this off, is a covenantal marriage, and meaning basically my joke back in the 90s was like, hey guys, how many people are involved in a marriage? And everybody would go 2, and I go, no, it's not. It's also the state. The state is the third entity, the legal entity. And that's the reason why I then go in there and F up your life. I will tell you, this is a side note. A lot of you guys that are listening and, let's say you're religious or not religious or spiritual or however you want to define that. I will tell you one of the trends that's been going on for almost 25 years now is guys that, as Thor has said, the covenantal is not a conspiracy theory or anything like. There's people actually going to their, and I know that are going to their ministers, their priests and rabbis that are getting covenantal marriage. Phil knows what I'm talking about. And they're doing it outside because the licensing of a marriage is actually a communist idea.
Yep.
And I can even go back to even licensing parents to have children was a floated back in the 50s.
That's
and
correct.
I'm not sure, and I don't want to, and Thor, forgive me, the panel, forgive me. But I'm going to stay away from it, but just say that there is an option to actually get married to your to whatever your view. I know 2 atheist people, a guy and a gal, that got married, and they actually had a covenantal marriage, if you can imagine. Okay, so that's an option for you. I don't know what your state and all that kind of stuff, and I don't want to go down that rabbit hole. And again, Thor, forgive me for kind of going down. But guys, there is an option. What Phil said earlier, watch that section when Phil opened this section up. Freaking brilliant, everything he said, because it's the whole thing of holding your frame. But part of that was like, and he nodded his head just a second ago, is like, you can have, as Thor said, a covenantal marriage, but you, the man, the guy to have frame, and you're gonna be with me. This is the frame, this is the box, this is the house, these are the rules. If you want to enter it, here's the door. Otherwise, there's the door.
Yep.
So,
And there's ways to do it. And no, don't worry about this, Rebel. It's 100% true what you say. It even goes further. We get into the birth certificate thing about the state owning you.
right.
It usurps God's authority, if you believe that way, or Odin's, or the power of the universe to the state. It's quite an amazing thing. It's entire control of you. When we talk about, hey, you know what? Let me just put this up. Guys, the slave mind is real and it's a part of it. And when we're banned here, look at the scroller on the bottom. Come see us on Rumble. It's completely censor free, and we can talk a lot about that. And I am only 5 subscribers away from live broadcasting there. We just reached monetization on Rumble, and we will be broadcasting live. And what's really nice about that is Rumble, when I get that live amount, when we go live, we get a brief moment on the welcome page. So you can see us uncensored, and we will be doing special content when we can go live just for Rumble because of this. And we can talk about that sort of stuff, Andre, and you're well versed in it. It's hard to find people because when we start going too far into that, when we're talking about these sort of rules or even any red pill stuff, it's easy to associate us with the smear campaign that's gone on for 30, 40 years against tinfoil hat wearing people. And, you know, Alex Jones was right, people. I mean, even if he was, that was such a horrendous thing that, you know, they've tried to erase him with it. Now with Tate, a guy that's in the red pill speaking what we believe, has become the target, and it's dangerous. Why is it dangerous to know the truth? Anyway, thank you, Andre. I appreciate that. Huds, are you in a good spot to talk about it?
Yeah. How am I coming through now?
Pretty good.
Okay, I'm just gonna stay this way then instead of using the camera because it's gonna cause more problems. But yeah, so essentially, I had moved in with a girl years ago, right out of college, and I rushed it, and it ended with, as I said, like false TV charges. That became a headache. That was like $10,000 lawyer fees. It was just a nightmare, and it was all because I didn't vet her properly. Now, the thing that I have against this rule in my current relationship right now, the thing that I have. What was that?
We're good.
Okay. I thought somebody was saying something. In my current relationship now, I slowly moved her in more. So we spent about 8 months where she was effectively living with me before we decided to actually move in together. And yes, I do plan to marry her at some point. That's not within 6 months. And I just have an issue with how it's called a rule when I really think it's a guideline. Because if you properly vet and you properly have frame in your relationship, there shouldn't be a lot of risk with moving in.
Uh-oh. It's a rule. That's why you got cut.
He got muted because he got cut because it's a rule.
I know.
The government got him.
Need to respond, brother.
Let me chime in here because now I love Huds. I think he's been a little solipsistic when he's thinking about it through his worldview and his experiences. These experiences are general. Okay, these rules are general guidelines. These are general rules to follow, saying, hey, you may be an outlier. Your situation could be different. But for the average guy, the average situation, moving in a woman too early, one, removes the mystery. All right, so now she knows that you got nobody else that you're talking to. Nobody else that you're banging outside your home because you know what? She's there. There's nothing wrong with that other than the fact that now she controls the access of sex for you. And she's going to use that as a power play. Women do use that as a power play unless you get with the nympho. All right, nymphos love sex all the time. And actually, you may need to take a time out from them because you need recovery, unless you're Thor. But like where this is going, and this is where the rule really stands firm at to me. If you look at the wording, never move a woman or never live with a woman that you are not planning to marry in 6 months or less. The number is arbitrary. The number could be 9 months. I've heard Rolo even say the number could be 9 months. The number could be a year. But the fact is that you have already vetted her enough to where you are ready to commit and marry her. So she has qualified herself to be someone that you are planning on investing in for a long period of time. That's what the rule means. It means she has qualified herself to your standards that where you are willing to commit to her for a long period of time in an exclusive situation. Now, that doesn't mean like, you found her in 6 months. No, it could be a year. It could be 3 years. Whatever the case is, but the fact is that she's already qualified herself, and she has to remain qualifying herself during that time until the I do's take place and after.
Well, I agree. And, from my perspective, having counseled so many and lived for a long time, guys, the best outcomes I've seen is about an 18-month period without living in. And then the next maybe few months preparing for that marriage, because you get past that chemistry, the honeymoon phase. I mean, it's real. You got 3 years. The clock ticks. As soon as the honeymoon phase is over, the clock is ticking. You're going to start the decay, and it's natural. It is built into the biology. It's to do that so that we stick together, get the kids. When the kids wean, you look for more. It's how you keep how we keep things rolling. And then, so let's talk about rules and guidelines. So is a guideline a rule? Well, it is a synonym, but guidelines are recommendations for best practice and behavior, whereas rules are permanent guidelines. And here's how you define it. The key difference is guidelines and guidelines are not formal, whereas rules are formal declaration. So you tell me, which would be the best to outline your boundaries and expectations when coming into a relationship which you'll cohabit? Would it be the guideline or would it be the rule? Personal preference would be to formalize it and be honest with it, because with that, there's no gray areas for you to stumble on, right? At least that's the take that I get. When you say it's a guideline, you can really bend things and you can use, some cognitive blindness, to talk yourself into things that aren't real. We do that all the time. I've done it myself. I mean, how many times do you say, oh no, we do it during sales all the time. I really need this freaking holder. This holder right here holds my phone so freaking perfect. It's only $47, but it holds it. It's metal. Glenn, it's fucking metal. I need it. We do this with women too. So I end up spending $47 on a 47-cent metal holder for my phone. I talked myself into it. The danger with moving somebody in without that kind of a commitment and a girlfriend is exactly that. And you have her in your ear. Yeah, let's do it. Let's do it. Let's do it. That's good. And it's nice to have that attention, but you do need to have some sort of experience in life or brothers that can help you with it, because I can tell you this, I made the exact same mistake as Huds without the domestic violence allegation.
We got Huds back in the building. Let's see what he got to say. Let's finish him up.
So if he's up and you can hear, I just defined the guideline versus the rule. I hope that you heard that. Whereas guidelines are formal, rules are a formal declaration and guidelines are not. And I just said, which one would you want in order to set your boundaries and expectations? Can you hear us, Huds? Okay.
Yeah, I can hear you guys. I don't know where I cut out, and I probably should just, I don't know if you even want me to be a part of it, because I'm in the country.
Talk, baby, okay. Talk.
I'll tell you what, just hang out.
Where did I cut off?
Not sure. But how about this? We'll hang out and we'll move through the next rules, because we got a really big one at the last. And if you're in a spot where you got a much better connection towards the end, we'll come back to it. How about that? I think there's a delay too. All right, guys, let's move forward then.
Iron rule number 5.
Iron rule number 5. This is what I was talking about too. It kind of blends into the first one, is never allowing a woman to be in control of the birth. So, I mean, Phil just put this up. Phil, are you still there? Let's talk about the birth, because that's really the big deal. You know, there's only 41 forms of birth control, only 41, maybe more for women. Only 2 for men. It's a condom or a vasectomy. Rule number 5. I'm going to post rule number 5 while we have this up, guys. Okay. Let me share rule number 5, because I think it's important that we that you guys see this. Here is the rule. Is that the right one? There it is. Iron Rule of Tomassi, number 5. Never allow a woman to be in control of birth. Why do you guys suppose that is? I mean, think of it this way. I was looking up some statistics, and I realized that there were some really interesting things. I'm going to go back over and refresh my notes here. As far as, you know, unintended pregnancies or unwanted pregnancies have gone up since 1965. Yet, we had the advent of hormonal birth control. So, okay, what's going on with all our views, man? Somebody messing with the views, guys? Let's don't do that, okay? Show, since 1965, we had hormonal birth control, and it's gotten much larger. It goes to IUDs, it goes to diaphragms, all this sort of stuff. Yet, the rate of unwanted pregnancies has gone up, and that I find that really interesting. Men have no control any further over the birth, and so, I mean, the real root of this particular problem is that, guys, when you're not in control of the birth, this is a tough one, because this can ruin your life, basically financially, especially if you're at the bottom and you're just climbing out. And this can really mess with you quite a bit, particularly if there's DV charges, you know, and you've broken up and then there's a pregnancy. The simple solution is really to control the birth. So how do you do that? It's real simple. You either don't do it or you use a condom, right? Or you end up with a vasectomy. This was so prevalent in the NBA in 2002. They issued a statement to all their players that you must flush your condoms when you're having sex on the road with women. Why would that be the case? They were asked. Because they had multiple cases of the women seizing the condom and impregnating themselves for a paycheck, essentially. That child became a big paycheck because they have DNA testing. Guys, that's a big, big deal. You know, and if you guys even go further back, remember Kobe Bryant? He was accused of rape, except there was 3 sets of DNA in her. I don't think so.
Yeah, one was
women
Phil's.
don't lie, right? So use the condom, gentlemen. You guys have anything you want to add here?
I think this rule is really self-explanatory, guys. It's common sense. Like, if you are not committed to a woman, you're not with a woman that you want to spend the rest of your life with, or have an LTR, have a relationship with, don't dump your seed. Like, okay, like, be smart. Be smart. I mean, because it's a financial, this is a financial situation and an emotional situation. All right. 10 to 30% of guys are fathering kids that are not biologically theirs. So women will tell you, oh, I'm pregnant, it's yours. And a lot of guys just take that for, as New Horizon says, women don't lie. They will take what that woman said and run with it.
Did you say 4 to 5%? It's
no,
more than that.
10 to 30. 10 to 30.
Almost 20. Yeah.
Yeah.
You know what's interesting? Yeah, but what's interesting on that statistic, Glenn, is if you like Google that stuff up, it's been dumbed down. Those numbers that because I've been in many debates with people on this one, many debates, and they get on Google and they search around, and there's been studies done. But if you look who's done these studies that you see online, they're completely biased. 9 times out of 10 written by a feminist or a feminist-backed organization. It's interesting. I think the current number is like 5%, right?
Yeah, I saw a statistic.
That's what they're quoting, bro. That's what they're quoting.
The statistic that I saw said 15 to 30% of men who suspected.
Well,
right?
that's manipulation of language, guys.
Yeah.
I have to encourage every watcher here, stop using Google, Yahoo, Microsoft, Bing, and even DuckDuckGo has now been purchased through a subsidiary of Google. So, guys, the internet's being curated for you. You can prove it to yourself. See how deep you can go in pages. It stops. Out of billions of hits, it stops like 40 pages in. You can't go further. They're curating your information. The first, you start seeing repeats of the same thing over and over. Go use the Brave browser. Go use Brave search.
And pick up points for using it.
Here's the thing, guys. Like, look. There was, what movie was it? Oh my God, I think it was King Arthur, right? And this guy they just pillaged this town, and this guy's about to smash this woman, like take her and make her as a war bride. And the Viking king, the Thor, grabs his soldier and says, we don't breed with that woman. Don't dumb down our bloodline. Like, guys have to think about this. Like, your bloodline is sacred. Your offspring is sacred. Do you want to have a dumb baby? Like, do you want to have a child that's going to be raised by feminist, mentality or by wokeism? If that's not the case, then you got to be smart in who you dump your load into.
Yep. You guys ever hear it's a trap? It's a trap. So I'm going to go savage on you guys. I want to go very, very savage as far as reply. But you guys are prepared for this. We might get banned for this, okay? I'm going to go really, really savage. And you notice that meme said the law doesn't protect your feelings. Now the feelings are law. So I might be breaking the law in this particular case. I'm going to advise men on 5. Never allow a woman to be in control of birth. Here is Thor's savage law on the rule of Tomassi. Iron Rule of Tomassi number 5, all right? When it comes to this, you have to be in control of birth. You have an option. We're saying, Glenn says, unless you're willing, you're committed to being with this woman, having children. Well, a lot of times we just want to get down, right? And you don't want to marry her. You don't want to do any of that stuff. You want to have some fun, right? But it's really important, that you do control it. So here's your response. Down the hatch or up the ass. And you're savage math, gentlemen.
Dude, they call them tiaras for a reason, bro.
Yeah. Hey, if I can, Thor, I want to go back on.
Here's our Viking savage from Britain agreeing with me, of course.
If I could go on, Thor, what you were saying, and Phil, on the percentage in England, I think we're at almost 3 years when it was I forget what their Ministry of Health or whatever it is in England, not Wales or Scotland. They were saying that 38% of the women.
Ireland. That's Ireland. I got that one. Yep.
Okay. I mean, that's staggering where they proved that 38% of the kids or just the tested kids were not of the father in the household. And it's in some country past when we were 2 months into lockdown past. I think it might be France, and I'm probably wrong, and forgive me for not knowing all the statistics, but they're passing laws in countries that they don't want to have. They won't allow paternity test. If the woman says this is the father, then it's the father, which is just that's just scary. That's
if you dig into those ministry tests over there, what I found super interesting, because I did dig into it, is they're based on the information they gathered from 2 organizations, and it was Ancestry.com and 23andMe. Wow. That's 10.
Yeah, don't listen to the French.
So
yeah,
they were collecting metadata because they do DNA testing and they do that, and it's real easy to tell what parentage is when you do this, and it's There is a interesting little fact about human nature that's out there. There's more
You know
cussing
what's
going on
funny?
than you think.
You know what's funny if you guys really think about it? Everything that we're talking about goes back to Iron Rule number 1.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's why
Amen.
it's number 1, right?
Yeah. Frame
Like, don't live a girl live with you. Why? Because it's not in your frame. She's not in your frame. She doesn't live in your house. Be in control of the birth. Controlling the birth is your frame. Okay? Like, seriously. Everything goes back to rule number 1. Just have that in the back of your head when you guys are listening to this.
Correct. Yep.
Non-negotiably.
Pretty straightforward rule, gentlemen.
I remember, I will say, when I was, I think my first or second year in college, and there was this beautiful redhead, and it was about to happen, and a voice went off. We were on a couch, her parents were gone, and she was in for the holidays, and I was finally, and then a voice went off my head, said, "Do you really want her to be the mother of your children?" I went, pants on, and I left. She was screaming at me because she wanted me and I wanted her, and I was like, and her life's been effed up since, 2-3 years after that. But yeah, you protect your bloodline, guys. You don't want stupid children.
Yep.
There's enough in the world already.
For New Horizons, just remember Thor's savage math on how to feel it. And still be safe.
I'm gonna have to clip that. Don't have stupid children.
Now, okay, Danny, for sure, man. We're gonna start that live stream right now. We're gonna start it with something really, really big. I want to say hi to you. Hi, Harry Zikos. Good to see you in here, my Viking brother. Thanks, man. Okay, so guys, big deal. The next one we're going to talk to, you might want to get yourself in a comfortable position. Might as well pull out your good book. Get really comfortable, because here's the one that has the most jagged sides, the most cruelest and the sharpest for men to take in the red pill. Probably causes the most grief of all.
This is the one they all choke on, including myself.
Everybody chokes on this one. And I'll tell you this one, you guys all, before you start on this, you guys all know, watching us and watching all the others out there, that there's a female delusion out there. Female mass delusion. There is a counterpart. There is a male mass delusion out there. And this is the one we're going to talk about right now.
You guys, and I encourage you to listen to an entirety of what we're about to say. All right? This is not a 30-second clip that you're going to be able to just take and run with, because there is levels to this. There is levels to this rule, and you have to listen to an entirety so you can understand, because we are not trying to say that this rule, because a lot of guys will hear this rule, they go black pill, they go MGTOW, so listen with the intent of comprehension.
And so this rule is the male mass delusion that is the counterpart to female mass delusion. And I believe that it's biologic in nature. It's set in us from instinct. This is just, I'll explain why as we move through. It's probably the most brilliant insight that Rollo has ever had, in my opinion, because when you realize the depth and the nature of what this says, it's a very good thing to understand, because it opens up an entire world for you that you never had before, even though it's very much an analogy to what happened to Neo when he took the red pill and he saw the world for what it really is. At first, it was scary. He couldn't use his eyes. He was skinny. He wanted to throw up. It was sick. It was jagged. He hated the red pill. The one guy wanted to take the blue pill and go back. But as he adapted to it, he has superpowers, and he can see things that nobody else sees, and he can enjoy that and use it to improve himself. What is this rule? This jagged, cruel rule. This is the one. Listen, Iron Rule of Tomassi. Number 6. Women are utterly incapable of loving a man in the way a man expects to be loved. In its simplicity, this speaks volumes about the condition of men. It accurately expresses a pervasive nihilism that men must either confront and accept or be driven insane in the denial for the rest of their lives when they fail to come to terms with this disillusionment. Women are incapable of loving men in the way that a man idealizes is possible, in a way he thinks she should be capable of loving him. So,
Can I tee off of that real quick?
you can.
Right there in the book, man. It's like he's got it in that italic writing. It says right here, men believe that love matters for the sake of it. Women love opportunistically.
Yep.
That, my friends, is the harsh truth.
Men are the true romantics. And when you understand this, you realize why this is so jagged. And the reason this is biologic is men will jump in front of a bullet to protect a strange woman. With that comes an ideology of protection of the species. With that comes the idea that she'll love him for him being him and everything and unconditionally. Even a woman with their children, somewhat conditional. They can do it, but it has to come from a place in them. Survival is utmost for them to move the species forward. So they will love opportunistically.
Big
and
time.
I can test this and prove it. You know, it was proven in our past. If you were the hunter and you were gored by the boar, you got about 6 months. If you can't get back out on the hunt, you're done. She will have a new hunter to provide for her and her children.
Mm-hmm.
That's it. That translates right. I can't tell you how many guys in my line of industry fall off a pole and are broken on disability. You know what comes next? Divorce. They get burned up and their fingers get blown off. Oh, I'm going to stand by my man. Within a year or two, they're gone. This is like 90%. I can't handle it anymore. You know, I lost my purpose. It's unfortunate, but it's true. Now, I think a lot of times those guys also have other issues, but what I'm saying is you can see that this is part of the nature, is they love opportunistically, whereas we love idealistically. You'll have a man that will stand by a woman that treats him like dog shit. Yes, dear, yes, dear, yes, dear, yes, dear. This is part of wife goggles too. You put on those wife goggles, and that's what keeps us around for many, many years. You know, Glenn, we put on those goggles, and that's when you have that 300-pound supermodel Tess Holiday, but her husband thinks she's the most fantastic thing in the world. He still sees her as the 120-pound.
You put those goggles on, and you no longer become her husband. You become her butler.
Yeah.
That's exactly what happens. And if whoever's watching this or might watch this in the future, don't get it twisted, man. I love women. Mm-hmm. I love everything about them, the way they look, the way they smell, everything. So I'm not hating on girls or the ladies or anything. But that is just a pure fact. You know, I've had this conversation with my girl several times. It's like, she says, "Oh, I love you. I'd do anything for you. I'd be there for you no matter what." And I said, "You love the idea of me."
Here you go.
I said, "I understand that you love me, but let's take love out of the equation. Have a conversation for a second. Why do you want to stay here with me?" And she would ramble off 3 or 4 items, and then love would pop in. Well, I loved it. I say, take that out of the equation. You see, when a woman truly desires you and truly wants to be around you, it's not necessarily about love, but it is about love, though, right? Because they love the idea of who you are as a man. And
let me tee off. I'm sorry. Go ahead, Phil.
Go for it, bro. Go.
Okay. I'm gonna say this because, you know, Coco put this up, and this is exactly how I break it down. All right. And idealism and opportunism, right? 2 different things. Love and respect, 2 different things, right? But they're one of the same coin. Now, in the Bible, it says women must love, or women must submit to their husbands and respect their husbands. Men must love their wives. Do you notice that the Bible does not tell wives that they need to love their husbands? It's because men view love through respect.
Yep.
Yeah.
That's how men innately see love. Oh, she's going to love me for the sake of love, for all the things that I've done. She's going to respect everything that I've done. She's going to see the value in everything that I've done and respect it. And then when she leaves, because she has a different opportunity, men are like, well, wait a minute, what happened? Where did she go? I thought she said she loved me. She didn't love me. Look, the closest people that has ever hurt me have been people that said they loved me. All right. And that means that they didn't respect me enough at that time to not do the things that they did. So men need to understand, if a woman is not submissive and if she's not respectful to you, she is not your wife. She's not wifey material.
Mm-mm.
The best way to have her love you is to put her in a place where it is of her best. She is in the best opportunity to love you. She is seeing you as the best opportunity to fulfill that. That is the way. It's
And
the
that
way.
requires men leveling up and becoming and being the best option she sees, the best opportunity that she has. And that is a continuous process, men. You don't go down the aisle, say I do, and get to retire. Okay? Thor puts in the work for 30 plus years to be in the great marriage that he is with Missy. All right? That's 30 plus years of him putting in the work every day to be the best opportunity she sees.
You know,
That's what it takes, and it's easy for us guys to really get it twisted around into our perception. Ladies do it all the time. You know how we say they're full of delusion? This is where we get deluded, because you'll see the ladies sit there and they don't understand that they're not taking accountability for these delusions. You know, the 6 foot, 6-pack abs, all these things, and they can't understand why it's not working well for them, and they can wait and they can have their cake and eat it too. Well, for us, we can't understand why we can't have this woman that loves us for who we are. When, you know, Rollo says it perfectly, you know, because men want to believe they can be happy and sexually satisfied and appreciated and loved and respected by a woman for who he is. It is men who are the real romantics. It is not women. It is the grand design of hypergamy that men believe it is women who are the romantic ones.
you know, and you can counter that too, because here's the deal. I've had many conversations with different women, and I will tell you this. I say, you know, and they say, well, I love you. And I say, well, have you told anybody else before in your life that you love them? And they're like, well, yeah, I've told other men. I said, okay, and you've married them? Yeah, okay, you've married them. You love them. So is it that you love them or you love the idea of them? You know, and it's like you can almost see it's like pulling the arm on a slot machine. You can see the wheels going around and like the 4 cherries popping up, boom, boom, boom,
Yep.
boom, boom, and it's like, okay, there's the jackpot. They finally start waking up to that. I say, you can't tell me you love me when you've told other men you love them, because you love them and you would do anything for them, but here you are with me.
Let me say something about hypergamy. Hypergamy is your friend, gentlemen, is not your adversary.
Amen.
Hypergamy is your ally. It is the iron that sharpens you. Okay? If you don't have hypergamy, you would never want to level up. If women didn't have hypergamy and they weren't solipsistic in nature, guess what? Everybody will be a fat lard that's not looking like Phil and just sitting around because they have no desire to get better, because she's just going to love you the way you are. All right? That's what it is. Hypergamy makes men become the best versions. It's a driving force for us to be better.
That's so true.
And you know, guys want to yell, oh, women's hypergamy strikes again. Women and their hypergamy. It's okay. Hypergamy is good.
Here's what you can say. It is not a bug. It is a feature. It is feature rich. That motivation to keep that, once you understand your burden performance and you are moving towards it, is not an overwhelming goal. It is something that's done constantly. It is a secret superpower for you. You don't understand it if you're questioning it, thinking that this is your lot in life. It is your advantage to understand that if you become her opportunity for her, she'll love you. She'll crawl through glass to have sex with you. She will travel across the country to have sex with you. She doesn't care whether you're a 60-year-old man and she's 22 years old. Doesn't matter to her.
She will sell everything she has and move across states to be with you.
Yep.
Yeah.
And it's impossible for them. The part of their delusion is it's impossible for them to imagine that when questioned on it. It's just like asking them what they bring to the table. Only a very mature woman that's been around and understands these concepts really brings the right answers. Otherwise, it's completely confusing, because to them, just look at me. That's what I bring.
Hey, Thor, what's the right
that is
answer?
nature.
What's
To
the
what?
right answer?
To what?
What women bring to the table? What's the best answer?
What they bring? Poon.
That was your cue to bring up Missy's answer, but you know,
yeah, she's got a very long. She understands that the real value is not the poon, although that's a big part of it. It's a part of it where she brings my legacy and she's working towards my legacy. It's about her becoming a part. She's the navigator on my, or she's the oarman or rudderman on my dragon ship. My success is her success, you see. And she ensures herself through my success. The more success I am, the more of an alpha I am, the more I perform. My burden of performance, the more successful she is. And that is her insurance against the future, is that right there and what she leaves behind. She has put herself in that position because she's extremely feminine, number one. And she understands that about men and women being better together than apart, and pushing it there. It is legacy. That's what she told me. That's the story she told me when, I was preparing for my speech in San Diego. You were present for that, Glenn, when, it was very popular to ask women what they bring to the table. It was our buddies at Fresh and Fit. And I think that's what you're alluding to. And I
remember you read it at MLD's Hot Bro tour.
Yeah, it was
it stuck with me, dude. It hit hard, and I
was
was
a good one.
wow, that letter. I mean, you read the letter. I mean, it was beautiful.
Yeah, I wrote it down because and I'll just tell the story right now so everybody can get caught up on it, because you're not the only one that's repeated it. I mean, even Myron and those have used it as well. And it's a good one because, I've been married a long time, and I was getting ready. I was writing my other lecture and speech for CME, and I was watching all these shows, and we're picking up some content on the ladies really struggle with what they bring to the table. For them, they are the table, blah, 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 blah. Well, table has 4 legs, get on all 4, babe, all that sort of thing. They don't understand the concept because they've never been exposed, to anything other than their sexualities, their agency, which is a part of what we're talking about, them loving, opportunistically. And so I asked her, what would you say if you're asked, now that you've been around the block and you understand a few things? And she just, at first I asked her, what do you think of these girls? She says, well, they don't know what it's really like to be a woman married to a man. And I had her elaborate, and she basically told me that what she brings to the table is my legacy, and whatever it takes to make sure my legacy is successful in the future. And I mean, for a woman, that's a mic drop, or for a guy to hear that's a mic drop too. That's a hell of a commitment for a woman to make and say. And it took me kind of off guard because I thought I might hear something different, but it was a nice way to sum it up.
Thor, can I use an analogy here to kind of maybe some guys that are getting stuck on some of this stuff, if I may?
Yeah.
All right. So one way that I think of, like when Glenn said and Thor said it and Phil said it different ways, is that, hypergamy is your friend. And this is what, and what Glenn said, he loves to say, iron sharpens iron. A lot of you guys are saying a woman has to love me, the Disney way or whatever rom-com thing that you've watched. Now, here's what's interesting. You are telling the woman, just as that, hey, some guys, they have it in the back of their trucks. It's that little sticker. I'm a Chevy guy. I'm a Ford guy. I'm a Ram Charger guy. I'm a Toyota guy, whatever it is, right? Well, you're putting your stuff on her. What she wants is what she wants. When I was 23 years old, I was opening up Mexican and Italian restaurants for restaurateurs, guys who were opening up restaurants to become multimillionaires. I remember the girl we were about to get engaged, and she said, Andre, I need you to make $100,000 a year and drive a BMW or a Mercedes. I go, I'm fucking 23 years old. I'm an assistant manager. I'm working 80 to 100 hours a week. Give me 5 years, I'll make my money. Just give me 5 years. She goes, no, I want it now. I said, well, she said, Andre, you got to change this whole thing because I want to open my own restaurants a year later or 2 years later. She goes, Andre, that's entrepreneurship. It was the 90s. A lot of guys, because entrepreneurship is sexy now. Back then is what I say. Entrepreneurship in the 90s was like saying AIDS at an orgy. It was conspiratorial. And she said, Andre, I want you to go get a job. She had an inroad at Schlumberger here in Houston. And I could have worked for somebody or another big famous restaurant or some other restaurants. And she says, Andre, you being an entrepreneur, I would rather you say that you believe in UFOs and Bigfoot. She wanted this, and she was beautiful, guys. And she married a guy that was 15 years older than her, and was worth like 20-30 million dollars. All this is like so hypergamy. And what my friend, I wasn't there yet. I wasn't ready. I wasn't cooked. I wasn't a man. I was on my track. And so all you guys think about you're putting your stuff on her. She wants what she wants. This is the whole thing when Glenn did his, if you all don't know, Glenn debated this guy, his last name is Wilder. It was on solipsism. And it was like, what they want is what they want, if you like it or not. I didn't have frame at that time. I was working on it. I had a long way to go. So it's like saying, I want this and she wants something different. You got to deal with that. And that's what one thing, it's just a variation for guys to think about it just a little bit differently. If you want creatine and you know, what do you call it? Cheap additives, and you want synthetic caffeine, or you want whatever coffee with it. Okay, great. But if you want other stuff, you want L-theanine, and you want higher, whatever I can't think of, whatever amino acids in your supplements, right? Well, then you have to go for that. And she didn't want that. She was not down. It was basically our menus didn't match, so she moved on. I was pissed as shit. I was red pilled at that. I was like, what the hell? She said, Andre, I love you, but you cannot be an entrepreneurship. I want you to go get a job at a nice company.
And that goes back to frame.
I know.
Like, look, guys, like hypergamy, women loving opportunistically is good for our species. Okay? Women had to pick the best mate to procreate with for the success of the species. It's embedded in them. It's innate in them, okay? Nowadays, guys want, like Thor said, you know, guys are look at all the best romantic movies. They're not written and directed by women. Shakespeare was not a woman. All right? The classics, that shows guys' true romanticism. All right? And we have to understand that, you know, women love a certain way. And when you get a woman that genuinely desires you, it's different.
Yes.
It's different. That's a different level. And you know what? Unfortunately, I'm going to say this, not a lot of guys experience that.
No, they don't.
Maybe 20% of men, maybe the top tier men, you know, the top 20% of men probably experience that. And for me, it's like, if I don't have genuine desire from you, you're not even my type.
Yeah. No, I agree. And men, you can get lazy and you can destroy that desire. So when you have it, you want to culture it, you know, you want to cultivate it.
You have to nurture it.
And Phil's an expert at cultivating that desire, aren't you, Phil?
Yes, sir. Let's go.
Tell me about it.
Look, man, here's the thing. You know, the thing that I've found in my relationship is that, you know, if I'm handling my business and you know, I'm not 100% readily available all the time, that causes that wheel to start spinning. You know, one thing she said to me, you know, is like, she told me this one time. She says, as a matter of fact, last night when I was watering the grass, we were having a conversation and talking about some things. And she's like, I don't think you'll ever understand the way I love you. And I said, well, what do you mean? She goes, I said, take love out of the equation. She goes, I don't think you will ever understand the way I feel about you. And that's it right there, gents. How can you make her feel? Okay. If you want her to desire you, she has to have those feelings. Okay. 'Cause she's running on emotion, right? All the time. It's always about the feelings. You know, how can you make her feel? You have two options. You can either build the roller coaster and put her on the front seat, or she's going to put you on her roller coaster and put you in the front seat. So the deal is how can you make her feel? You know, how can you get into her mind? Okay, and that's by the way you speak to her, the way you fuck her, the way you provision for her if she's with you like that. Now, if you're just out there dating and you're just spinning plates and it doesn't matter, then, you know, just have fun and gun, and then that's the deal. You know what I mean? But the thing is, we're talking about dudes that have women in their homes. Okay, so for me, it's about how I can make her feel. You know what I mean? How can I push and pull her through this relationship? How can I affect her feelings and not her mind? Okay. Now, there's a time and place to mess with her mind a little bit, but I'm telling you guys right here, if you can get into her feelings, she'll never be able to explain the way she feels about you. But it's so strong, so powerful that it doesn't matter what you do. She just has to be with you. She further went on to say to me, she goes, you don't understand that I am your ride or die, whether you want to believe that or not. And then, you know, that go back to the rule right here that we talked about it, that women love opportunistically, correct? And so in my mind, that's where my mind goes, because, you know, I've been, you know, let me tell you something. I got like 6 volumes of this on my bookshelf up there. I've read it just a couple of times, just a couple.
Exactly.
You know, I want to like throw it.
You know, definitely what you say is absolutely true. And we get into that much further when we do like the DragonShip membership on what techniques you actually do. How, because a young guy that's watching this says, how do you actually do that, Phil? Because, you know, for me, I asked the woman and she says, I want a man who worships the ground I walk in. So he buys flowers every Friday. He gets chocolates. He gives her 16 different paragraphs on the text to express his vulnerability, because she said she wanted to be worshipped and she wanted to be emotionally available. So don't misunderstand. That is not what Phil is saying.
Don't do that. Do
thing.
not do that. Message me.
Here's
you have very specific guidelines and things that you can do that would clear that up for you. So
let me add something to that, and I'm going to go biblical on you guys. As much as I said, as the Bible says that women need men to or wives to submit to their husbands, it says husbands, love your wives as Christ loved the church. A man doesn't harm himself. He loves himself. He feeds for himself. He takes care of himself, right? Look, your woman is an extension of you, all right? She's an extension of you. She represents you. So for me, it's like, look, if you disrespect my woman, guess what? You disrespected me. I don't think nobody's going around disrespecting Missy. Nobody wants those bolts of thunder from Thor. Because why? He has set that standard that this is my wife and she's a representation of me. And that right there is true love. When a man could love his woman as he loves himself. All right. He's not going to put his wife or his woman in a situation that's going to be dangerous or detrimental to her. All right. Because he loves himself. She's an extension of him. That woman will value that. She respects that. She sees that this is not just some dude that's going to just trying to get some ass.
100%. I like that you went biblical, and it does. You do treat her as if yourself. She is an extension of me. That's absolutely correct. And when she is secured my legacy and has done her part, she has bought herself everything and more in me doing that for her. You know, and that's important for them. I mean, they have existential fears too. You know, they don't want to lose the alpha. You know, there's all kinds of, and when they lose their sexual agency as they age, you know, that's a big, big fear for them as well. You know, so they secure their future by doing that and being feminine like that. Also, I wanted to tell a quick little story here just on one of these, and it was a buddy at New Horizons. Never listen to what women say they want. I have a funny story. It may not apply, but there is some truth in this, because I could tell you, you just brought up Missy, and so my Mrs. Thor is she is probably one of the most pragmatic women you'll ever meet, and very, very, very feminine. It's funny when you have a woman that's super feminine, they are quite pragmatic. That's a big piece of feminine beauty that I really admire, is the pragmatism that comes with a woman that is so feminine. So, and what I say by that is what she would tell me she doesn't want. You know, early on, we got the old, she had the old flip phone, right? And she basically, I was going to get her a smartphone. I don't want a smartphone. I don't need a smartphone. No way. I hate the smartphone. I don't want it. It's stupid. And And so actually it was the iPad. It was an iPad. I don't need an iPad. I have my flip phone. You know, it was when the iPads first came out. That's what it was. And I ended up buying her an iPad for her for Christmas, right? I gave her this iPad. So 3 months later, she complained about me getting it because she didn't need it, would never use it. Guess what? She used 100% of the time after that. The iPad, right? She loved it. So yeah, and it was the same way with her smartphone. So sometimes they're hyper pragmatic. So you got to also, you know, listen to what they want, but also have to gauge it against that relationship. What's really good for that relationship. As a man, you have to. And for her to get her a smartphone eventually was the right thing. I know there's risks with it, but she needed it for a business and she needed the iPad too in order to have certain things, even though she didn't want it. You know, I did push her in that direction. So when I hear you say never listen to what they say they want, there is some truth there, you know, and you have to cultivate that relationship and understand what that means. And it's individual to that woman.
If I can, Thor, one thing that blew
Yes.
me away when, if you remember back before Oprah, the number one talk show was Donahue in the '80s, and I was always amazed. The I guess as a child, the thing that drove me nuts was when parents or somebody or teacher would say one thing and do another, and so the contradictions always, it always like it was like a rusty potato peeler to my skin. And one thing I noticed that on all those talk shows, women were saying, guess what? I want a guy who's sensitive. I want a guy who's talk. I want to go la 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 la. And then I was looking at all the women in my life, and guess who they were dating? Guess who they wanted? They wanted the bad guy, or the guy that was the masculine guy, the guy that was guy that was wealthy, or the guy that had the nice car. And I was like, what the heck, right? So that's where that kind of goes in what they say, what they want, and it's like, and it's now with the PC culture, all the women say, we want this, and no, you don't. And that's what part of the whole red pill was, waking up. You know, that's what the whole matrix was to wake up, the wake up from, who was it, Glenn? The whoever's the cave, I think Plato's cave or Socrates' cave. And you know, to take
Yes.
the red pill to get out of the matrix and wake the F up. And that's what, for me, that's changed me so much as my evolution from the, I guess, the mid '80s to the story I just told you about. And then I was like, okay, what do women really want? And as I was studying NLP and hypnosis, I was down that road. And then I just said, okay, the guy, I set the frame in my head. It was just basically a picture. This is what women want. And I became that. And then it saved me a lot of heartache and all these guys that are all their conditioning, which is really sad. And that's why, Rollo did all this stuff, was to save men, as Glenn, when he went to have his debate, to save guys not putting the lead in their mouth. And that's what, we all want is, but it's not just to stop but then not to put the bullet in your head, but then to move forward, to take all this stuff and use these as principles and guidelines and to move forward and then expand and not just survive, but thrive, where we have incredible lives. We have incredible women. We make lots of money. And to work out, I like when I work out, it's that visceral feeling. If you just got the blood is just pumping through. I love that. Like when I was running like a child, I used to just love to run till I'd pass out almost. And that's what I want, guys. That's what this is all about. To get your shit on.
I want to say that, like, you know what? Every woman is capable of being submissive. It's natural for them. Okay? But here's the thing. You got to be the guy that brings it out of them, that makes them want to desire to be submissive, that makes them want to desire to respect you. Like, you have to have it already together. It's not something you could learn and build up later. You can. It's harder, but you have to be the guy. All right? You have to be the guy to already be the man that pulls that out of her. What did she say? Let's see. Rules or submission in Bible 3:18.
New American Testament, yeah.
Yeah. Women, submit to your husbands. Men, love your wives. Never treat them harshly. Yeah. Yeah. And that goes to show, because you would never treat yourself harshly, men. You would never inflict pain on yourself intentionally, and be okay with that. Like, she's an extension of you.
I like that text, but I like the King James, because harshly is not. Sometimes you have to be harsh because your survival and hers depends on it. It means it's more about not treating her, abusing her, and things like that. So just be clear. You're going to have to make decisions in your relationship when things go not so well. There is a decay that happens. You have to refresh. You have to maintain mystery. You have to do a lot of things, and sometimes you're going to hurt some feelings. And that's one of the things about this particular rule. When a man is expecting to be loved a certain way, oftentimes we actually ignore the fact that women being hypergamous in nature, far to a far greater extent than men ever will be, is the fact that they can hold two different thoughts simultaneously that are contradicting each other, and they don't recognize it. And it's because of the fact that they have feelings and emotions that aren't expressed well in rational communication. You ask a woman what she wants a man to be, and she'll describe it as what is. It's funny. You can see it when you have a group of women. You ask the first one what they want, they all say the same thing. And yet, damn good and well, half of them aren't going to be that way. Their feelings are for something else. I could prove it. It's just
They're talking
the way
about
it
the
is.
beta needs of it. They're talking about the
Beta needs alpha seed, right?
Yep.
And to
Like all
recognize
women say, like, oh, I want a guy that's sensitive and sweet and that wants to go on long walks on the park and wants to, read me poetry. Yeah.
when they get that, they want to throw up.
Yeah. Then they want the guy that's gonna be like,
Maybe
Thor and rail them and grab them by the hair and call him a dirty little slut. Like that's what they want.
Same time next week. See you later.
Exactly.
But
they want both.
Want both. And ultimately that's what this speaks to is when you understand how this works and way you leverage this in a relationship by knowing that they can't love you in the way we idealize, it allows you to maintain that relationship in such a way that she gets that push pull, and so that both sides are quite satisfied. And that's why we're saying once you're her best option, no other options become appealing at all. And that's why guys that have very high value, shall we say, can be that way, completely in love with their woman over many years and respecting her. And even with that respect, she knows that he might exercise an option of sex with another woman aside from her, and yet she still has capitalized all of his resources and knows that he still loves her. And this is common. Let's don't cut through it. It is very offensive to many people in modern society, but it has always been done. And some of those people live quite successful lives. They absolutely do. I mean, who thinks that? I mean, I'm not a huge fan, but who thinks that Trump hasn't had a little on the side with Melania still being his number one? I mean, he's done this his whole life. He's top dog, right? And then we got Top G out there that got banned for saying these obvious truths.
I got a question for the panel. Here's a question. Let's say a guy was a high value guy. He married her. He did everything he needed to do to get to the aisle, right?
Yep.
Locked it down. And then started slacking, right? And now starts complaining about a woman, not loving him, whatever, and not willing to do anything to improve himself. Would you say that he is the one that's not seeing the value in the relationship?
Yeah, of course.
So you understand that, right? You have to constantly maintain your value even after I do. If you don't put in the work, you got to do the same shit you were doing before the aisle and the same shit after and more after. That's the job. That's the requirement to being a top tier guy and having a good relationship like Thor. Yeah, if you're not willing to do that, you can't complain about the woman not respecting you when you're not being doing anything that deserves respect.
So here's a good way to say this, Glenn, and I think this will be easier for modern women to understand. You have to be of such a stature and status and physical presence that you can and could exercise options and that it is publicly recognizable. Whether you will or not is merely a choice, but you have to have the first part in order to have those kind of tingles and that sort of tension that keeps the relationship very, very fresh. And that's where you can use hypergamy to your advantage. And you can keep, and I'll tell you, it's a wonderful thing to have that kind of a long-term relationship that span decades. It's a good thing. It's not a bad thing. And we can see that in history, and it's definitely, let's see, I saw something in the chat that looked pretty good.
Moral of the story, Ben,
Oh.
hypergamy is your friend.
Yep. It is your friend. And yeah, it's true, Phil.
That's gospel right there.
Truism.
Yeah, if you guys get in a situation with your girl and she's like, well, and you got some stuff going on, man, definitely don't do it. She's gonna lose respect for you, man. And to Glenn's point, if you're a dude and you've locked it down and you aren't doing the same things, or if you are not better off today than you were yesterday, or you're not better off this year than you were last year, you're failing as a man, period. Women just have to show up, man, at the finish line, right? I mean, as men, here's the deal, man. As a man, if you're not constantly improving, and I'm not talking about, you don't have to be Daddy Warbucks, Scrooge McDuck with the big stacks of cash or whatever like that, and that's what you want, go for it. You know what I mean? But the thing is if you're not constantly building and improving on who you are, your mentality, your physicality, your social network, and making moves in a positive direction, and you've got a woman that's perceived you as high value and you fail that situation, you can't blame her for looking to another man. It's interesting to me, man. There's a lot of the clients that I work with, man, they've been married, and here's the deal, man. They get married, and these girls, they say to me, these men say to me all the time, well, when I was younger, man, I was in a lot better shape, and I said, yeah. And then she started baking. Here's the deal. Your girl's going to want to keep you comfortable, and she's going to want to have you a little overweight. That doesn't mean put on 50 friggin' pounds, okay, and lose all self-respect for yourself. The reason why she's doing these things, the reason why she's baking these foods is because you don't respect yourself to begin with. You don't tell her, hey, babe, no, I'm not into that anymore, number one. Number two, that takes the anxiety and the pressure off of her of other women looking at you.
Of course.
Okay, so when you let yourself go and you don't respect yourself, it's kind of like in business, man. If you're out of shape and it's a medical condition, that's one thing. But if you're out of shape just out of pure laziness and lack of respect for yourself, I don't do business with people like that. I move away from people like that. The thing is if you don't respect yourself, how can you expect anyone else in this world to respect you, let alone your woman?
Right.
Okay. If you're flip-flopping and you're moving around and not making that steady gain in the right direction, don't be surprised if she comes looking for a guy like me, bro.
Look, if you cannot, and this is where I tell guys all the time, like, you got to be your girl's best. All right. If you are not the one that takes her to the next level, she's going to remember all the guys that took her to the next level.
Oh, man, dude, here we go. Let's go, man. Let's go.
All right. If you're not the guy that when she thinks about sex, you're not the image that she thinks of, guess what? She's thinking of Phil. Okay? All right? She's thinking of somebody else. All right? If you're not the one that makes the church girl want to be a dirty little slut, you're not the one for her.
Yeah.
We're just doing man talk here, and that's how we look at it for sure. And that is the truth. There's more to the story for sure. Now, let me talk to the ladies here about this, because they love opportunistically and understand. If they do understand this, what do they do about this? Well, you find a man that is your best opportunity and is willing to maintain that. And your big fear is you want to fatten him up because you don't want to lose him, right?
Mm.
So let me talk to them. You don't want to lose him. How do you do that? Well, here's the thing, become his best option. You do exactly that. You don't get yourself fat. You look good. You take care of yourself. You take pride in presenting yourself always, all the time. The most feminine women, they get up, they don't want their hair messed up. They want to look good. There's nobody around. You're right there. It's a Saturday morning. Who are they doing that for? It's you. These are the things that you look for. A woman put a man on lock and he appreciates her. You know, when he has that woman that's like that and she's performing her wifely duties all the time, whenever his need is there, and she has actually leveraged her skills in that relationship with her femininity, he's really not that interested in exercising options. Remember what I said, you know, he has to have the ability, he has to have the options, and he has to be publicly recognized as those. If he has those, that's just enough for her competition anxiety to keep her giving her the tingles. And if she does those things, then she's got the girl game to keep you there. And that's really girl game, is to put that alpha in a place where he can provide some beta needs for her and still give her the alpha dick. So that's how, girls, that's how you do it. That's how you do it. Since you love opportunistically, take the opportunity to be his best option.
Yep.
Yeah, a good
Yep.
woman, a solid woman in your corner, man, that you're leading through this crazy world, man. Let me tell you something. If you're in shape and you're taking care of yourself, she's going to want to do the same thing. She's going to assimilate and adopt exactly who you are and what you're about without question. You know, it's like, you know, I'm pretty big into physical fitness. Obviously, I train and do things, you know, when I'm not broken. And
We're all
and
broken, brother.
yeah. And I will tell you this, man, you know, my girl looks at me and she's like, I'm not liking the way I'm looking. I want to get back in the gym harder. Coach me, come train me, come train me, come train me. You know, I want to be rock hard. You know, I mean, she likes to be rocked up all the time because she knows what I like. I like that aesthetic on women. I like a woman that looks rocked up. I don't like fluff. And so here's the thing, man. If you are a man of value and you're ticking all the boxes and she doesn't assimilate to you 100%, she's not the one either.
Absolutely. That's facts. Guys need to realize that, like, look, if you've taken the time to level yourself up, why are you settling for something that's settled than less than your value? Don't do that. Don't do that. And you know, I have a story. Oh my gosh, I can't wait till we do these after hour stories on Rumble, Thor, because I got a story for you. And I'm gonna, Coco, I'm sorry, I'm gonna put you on blast. But you know, we have a story, Thor, and I'm not gonna share it right now because it's not rated YouTube friendly.
That's okay. That'll be savage, I'm sure. I know we're getting close. We're getting real close, guys. I mean, our live viewership is up. Last episode, we tripled the views. So, you know, we're starting to, you know, we got the choke on a little bit and we're getting the engine warmed up. As we franchise the DragonShip out, we'll get more of these wonderful conversations going because men need these conversations, particularly around the type of content like this, where, you know, a lot of us have heartburn with some of these rules. They are rules, guys. Can you view them as guidelines? I suppose you could, but here's the thing. It's in your best interest, in all probability, to look at these rules real strongly and come to grips with the fact that men and women do love differently and that our behaviors are designed differently. There are valid reasons for this, for the survival and the success of our species. It's rooted in our biology, and in our biology, our biology actually affects the way we think. They can take men and women's brains under fMRI scans and they can see the same things, and their thought patterns are different. That means there's a different perspective, different emotion. There's different arrivals at different solutions. Look at what men have done so far. Women have bred selectively. They're the selectors. We all know that to be true. Therefore, by selecting and cucking, they produce the type of men that we are here today. Okay. We are the survivors. We're the warriors. We're the ones that created a civilization that is, at least as far as we know, the most advanced there has been. In the West, we have all of our needs met. We have needs met so easily that a women can think that they can do nothing and have to do nothing to survive and live at the top of the food chain, except show some sexy pictures of their butt crack. And it is reality right now for them. So, but it doesn't change the fact that their biology makes them think a certain way and they pursue a certain sexual survival strategy because that's what we are. We're these biological electrochemical machines that are moving through this space on this blue ball hurtling at thousands of miles through space. It's a crazy idea, isn't it? Almost like a simulation. It's so freaking wild. But aside from the esoteric side of this, we have different strategies. But when we come together, the success is amazing. Men will do anything for women. We build cities, we build protection, we fight each other to the death, for this. And on the other hand, women will go for the best opportunity. Heck, I just watched some sort of Netflix thing, and it's very true about a woman who had these children, and she got in her little hypergamous mode and picked up on some cult leader type of dude that she couldn't wait to be, his number one. He is the Messiah, and she was going to be the queen of the other realm. And the only thing standing in the way was, dang, didn't have enough money, but her husband had a life insurance plan of $1 million. And oh, by the way, her kids were in the way. They needed new kids to realize this strange dream that he was calling God's dream that she'd bought herself into based on her hypergamous sexual strategy. She had a little bit of a screw loose, but she still followed the same pattern. And what did it end up? It ended up with dead husband and dead children. And that's a real story. So it can go haywire. So if you recognize that, or if he recognized that, maybe it could have been stopped early on. So we try to educate men and women. Coco, I'm glad you're here. I mean, there's a lot of women that are coming into this space and learning a lot. And heck, I just saw, what did we do a couple of weeks ago, Glenn, when we did the video with Andrew Tate and the girl? What was her name? Celine? But what was her name?
Yeah. Damn, that was Celine, wasn't it?
Was it? I can't remember her name, but they were kind of frictiony, and she was pretty modern, right?
Yeah.
I just saw her on Fresh and Fit. It looks like there might be some absorption going on there of some certain realities that we talk about in this space.
I think I'm looking forward to. We have talked about this before, bringing on Coco and Torsha on to talk about some topics.
Sure,
I think that would be fun.
I want to do it as a separate show. It'll be We'll do it as a separate show.
It'll be a special show.
Yep.
But I want to say this, guys. If we could physically see women look differently than men, if you could see that they're physically different in our looks, then you could expect that they're loved differently. There's more different stuff about them than we are. And as Rolo said, there's more things that separate us that are different than men and women than we are alike. And so don't look at women loving opportunistically as a sin, as something wrong, a defect with women.
Right.
Okay? It's not a defect.
It's a feature.
It's a feature. And you have to learn how to optimize that feature best for your outcome, for your frame. And if you can't, and if you don't, those are the guys that are crying, "Oh, women ain't shit. All women are 304s," because they don't know how to optimize that feature as a benefit to them and to their outcome and to their frame. Guys, we're not trashing women. Women's opportunistic nature in the way they love has been a benefit and makes men be greater.
Yeah, what's really interesting, Andre, is in this space as women start to understand pieces of it. I don't know if they'll ever come to the full understanding because we do think differently. But use someone like Jedediah Bila. That was just death on Rolo to begin with. But then she sat and thought about it. She's got a real masculine husband. She comes with some of these truths in a different way. She has to come at it in rather a circular way rather than a lateral straight across way. It kind of offends her nature, or it's kind of unflattering, I would say. And no woman would ever wants to be unflattered in public. So she comes around to this. And I think it's a very good thing because when they do, they recognize their femininity and the truth of our different approaches. And when that happens, men like us and men that do come to this knowledge definitely are at an advantage, and things will only get better from there. What do you think, Andre?
Yeah, I totally agree. I want to chime off of that and what Phil said earlier. This show, you guys are freaking killing it. This is dimes, gold bars, printing money. Part of Phil said earlier, he said comfort I forgot how he said it, but comfort is bad for guys and it's a bad frame. And the stages and phases that we grow, and all three of you guys said it. one of the I learned this from a hypnotist that trained me up, and he's been dead for 25 years. And this is something that is one of my placards. I should have this on the wall. Comfort is the death of men. And I was like, because if you're not growing and changing, so this is where Phil was talking about his lifestyle with his lady, and he was talking about how she said, "Hey, baby, I love you, ride and die," and all that. It's, and I'm going to get to what you just. I'm tying this in, Thor.
Mhm.
Is that once you realize that you have to grow and change and keep, and I call it, the way I look at it is, am I touching her soul? I'm not the biggest guy. I'm 5'8". I don't have a perfect nose, right? But
I'll
guess
forgive
what?
you, son.
Is that I can tell. I know when I walk into a room, because of what I've worked on myself, learning not just pickup but seduction. I like seduction more than pickup. Is that I know that I can touch. I've got one of the 3 6s, but I can touch a woman's soul. That's what Phil was. That's what each one of you guys are talking. You're talking about how your wife takes care of you, how she takes care of you, Thor. How Glenn's woman as Coco takes care of him. It's that stage and phase in the relationship, and if you keep grinding, and I know that's a bad metaphor in one sense, but it's also a great metaphor. As you grow in your stages, how are you taking care? And you said it's like the garden thing. You still gotta, if you have bad wood on your ship, you gotta replace it, man. Your front door, the stain is gone. You gotta replace it at the homeowners association. You gotta keep growing. You gotta keep doing stuff. And you tie all this stuff together, man, it becomes powerful. But as a guy, to me, it's like that's the reason why to this day, every single night I go to bed at 12 or 2 o'clock in the morning, because I'm still reading about NLP and hypnosis and psychology and white papers and all the boring stuff. So I know when I'm still out there constantly, I am constantly. But the tie-in for this is that you guys got to keep growing. It's not just growing a little bit as much, because if you want a girl at the end of the finish line, or you want to be the best that you can be, you got to keep pushing yourself. You got to find out what the latest technology is. That's why I said, Phil, look at what Phil's doing. You guys go check out his supplement line. It's bad to the bone, man. If you ain't buying, I need to, and Phil, I'm going to, and I apologize. It's bad to the frickin'. Look at what his I don't want to get, go to Phil Foster's nutrition. Thor is look at what Thor is. If you're just business guys, Thor and Phil are branding MFers, right? So how are you branding yourself to your ladies? What relationship, what frame are you throwing down? I'm a nerd for this, but I pulled women off. You guys want to I pulled women off of Mystery and Style, or the guy who wrote the game, and some of the other guys, because they're doing pickup. I'm doing seduction. I'm
Yes.
touching your soul. I'm not, hey, here's my card trick. And magic is cool, and I'm a nerd for it. But man, I'm about seduction, baby.
I love it.
So anyway, go ahead, Thor.
Love it. I want to answer New Horizons. He's been really thoughtful in the chat, and thank you for that, New Horizon. We need women in this space because, in general, when women listen to other women, that's the first part. And then he wants me to answer what my opinion is on this, and I'll have you guys all chime in. So men won't be the best way to change other women's mind in society. I hope this comes through correctly. Yes and no. We need all men's space to test ourselves with rites of passage. It's important in order for us to present that value. A woman can't be fully a woman without a man being fully a man. It's a together sort of thing. So we do need women in this space. Shout out to Real Femme Sapien, Allie. Met her personally. Pearl too, friend of ours. Those girls are killing it. Tallulah over there with the Feminine Truth. Wonderful person. I wish her all the best. I know she had some medical issues. But yeah, we do need women, and I think that we will end up with women, definitely putting more than just their toe in this water and getting pretty well versed in it, because I'll tell you this, women are attracted to very masculine men, and very masculine men are in this space. So we don't have a choice. Women will come into this space. The only thing we have to do is do things like, aside from this YouTube and the Rumble, which women are more than welcome in these spaces. Heck, we're broadcasting to men, but women should listen. We're going to do specials with women here. When it comes to something like Thor's Mastermind membership, it is a men's only space. And there's a reason for that, because there are things that men say to each other and behave with each other that's extremely honest and brutal that women don't understand, because they can't be like that with each other. Even though women are vicious with each other, they don't communicate, and they don't do it in the same fashion that's very linear. And in a meritocracy, it's offensive, you see. But it's good for us men to have banter like that and work with each other to improve. As soon as a woman enters a man's space like that, if I had a woman on this panel, the dynamic would change. I don't care who it is. Now, we will have shows with women here, and you'll notice that it just does change, and there's nothing wrong with it. We need to do that, and we need to have shows with women so you can watch that dynamic with women. That's where Fresh and Fit really did well. They held their line, they brought women in, but there has been really good conversations and even interviews with women on that show. So we need to have it, but they also do their other shows where they're talking directly to men. And when it comes to the best way to change other women's mind in society, I think women subtly do it. I think men abruptly do it. And men, you have more opportunity to do it because you're the leaders in society and in relationships. It's not the other way around. Women don't lead the relationships, men do for the most successful ones. So to change women's mind in society, we start at the relationship level. And so that is ultimately the best way to change women's mind. If they won't change their mind, they don't get the alpha dog. Sorry. So that's my opinion on it. Anybody else want to chime in on this comment?
Yeah, can I tee off of that real quick? I will tell you that my girl and I have done some live streams before, and here's the deal, man. It's interesting to me that, when guys actually listen to what women are actually wanting or thinking or needing from men, it's like we got a lot of comments and stuff like that. We did a little test run to see how it would go. And it was interesting. Most guys that are red pilled or learning about the red pill, they were more interactive or responded or left comments or something like that versus the people that weren't, that were more into the fitness stuff. It's amazing to me. And then you have the whole white knight group of dudes that would come on and say, well, man, he's so this and he's so that and controlling and blah, blah, this and that, you know what I mean? And she literally was on camera saying that's just not the case. You know what I'm saying? So it's amazing to me, the guys that have been woke up a little bit through the pain and heartache and how they found the red pill, how they start to understand a little bit better. And you're absolutely correct. That's why Fresh and Fit have nailed it, is because you get that female perspective and then they actually try to apply this logic to them. Some of the episodes I've watched, I mean, obviously there's some of those girls, they really tote the line, right? They really are just closed off to understanding or believing anything. They are so self-absorbed, that they refuse to acknowledge or understand it. And you can almost, when you're watching some of their live streams, it's amazing. Some of the girls that are actually sitting around the table, they'll be real interactive at the beginning, but once he starts speaking and they start litigating these things out and laying it out, it's amazing to me. You can almost see these girls do this, right? They sit back and they really start to listen, man. It's amazing to me. And it's like once again, you see the slot machine in their eyes. You know what I mean? They're not glazed over and not listening. They're listening intently. And hopefully that has an impact. You know what I mean? Because here's the thing, right now in the way society is going, it's, men have to create their value, obviously, like how it always has been, and women need to retain their value. But, the problem is most girls, and the way they're being programmed through TV, through social media and everything, they are objectifying themselves. They're putting themselves out there to become the 403s. And that's the sad truth of it. You know what I mean? So when they do get to a point in their life, no man worth his weight in salt, is even going to look at them. They're destroying themselves. And it's really a sad thing to watch.
Yeah.
And so, when you start really looking at how things are, a lot of these younger girls, and that's a big thing. This is one big flaw I find in the red pill community. Okay. You need to be older. What do they say? Older dudes date younger chicks. Well, these younger chicks have higher body counts than the older chicks that have actually grown up in a friggin' stable family and had a halfway stable life. Older chicks aren't on friggin' medication. You see what I'm saying? So that's a bone I have to pick with the red pill community on this whole thing. But the thing is fundamentally women have objectified themselves, and we as men, we get validation through sex. So here's the deal. The more they're going to offer it up for free, the more they're going to get tore off the bone. And it's amazing to me to see how women and men interact with each other. Now it's like, like I've done this Tinder thing for a while, man. It's amazing to me, how impulsive women have become when it comes to sex. It is amazing to me. It's like, and the whole swipe culture has really defined this whole younger generation. So when you start dealing with intersexual dynamics in the relationships and why dudes, are going through these hardships and becoming red pilled, and the whole, like what Glenn was talking about with Huds yesterday, the whole passport movement, of going to other countries and finding women that are, a little bit different, if women are willing to listen, and I'm going to kind of side with Thor on this, if women are willing to listen to the information and process it, okay, and then process that information and say, okay, I see that side of things, but once again, women operate off of emotion, not logic, so that can be a tough thing too. In the same token, could it not, Thor? Yep. Could they not have a hard time taking this information? And so the hard truth is this: the more fempowerment happens, the more, these women think they don't need a man, the more society is going to fail. The further away from our ideals we're going to fall. I really believe in my heart, though, that dudes that have become red pilled and they've been burned a few times and they've had to wake up the hard way. They had to swallow these hard truths that are in books like this. That is going to save where we're headed today in our future generations. I think these younger girls, unfortunately, I'm going to be honest with you, man, these younger ones, man, they're friggin' absolutely insane. They've lost their minds. Yeah. And I think any man that is high value, that has done his due diligence, that has worked his tail off, that has built his value up to a point, he has a hard time looking at these younger ones. And I'm not saying they're all that way, but predominantly, I'll put a percentage on. I'll say 85% of these girls that are under the age of like 30, man, they're gone, man. They got body counts. They got body counts like the LA morgue.
Yep. Now,
hey, leave my city out of this.
Here, it's amazing what you're saying, because guys, this is the slave mind, and we're going to get Andre razzled here. Let's say hi to Raith real quick. Another one of the DragonShip members. Sorry you couldn't be here today, brother. We'll get you there next time. One of the things about that is that these devices right here are run by a handful of companies, just like the media is only 4, the mass media. And the corporatocracy, it's a public-private partnership. It is quite a conspiracy, if you want to say conspiracy, but it's quite a narrative we're saying nowadays to addict. The Chinese know it. Why do you think they're running TikTok differently in our country than they do in China? It's very different. Masculinity is not a problem in China with TikTok. It's a logarithm to the top. What's going on?
I want to say something about this is that, we said that women love opportunistically. When they start seeing that men are not picking them because of their behavior or because of their attitude, they're going to change, because the opportunity for their survival is best if they adapt to what men are wanting. So guys, stop listening to these women and telling you what they want, and start leading. Lead. Be men. Be the men that you're supposed to be for these women, and they will follow suit. The reason why we have the epidemic of 304s, as Phil said, at 85% is because men have condoned it, and then now they're mad at these women who have bad body counts and they cannot pair bond well. You're mad at the women that you condone their behavior. If you want these broads to change, hold the standard. Be the standard. That's what it takes to lead. That's what it takes to be a man. Have a frame that says, no, I have a standard. And if you don't meet this standard, you don't get to ride this ride. All right? There's a height limit and a weight requirement. All right? And a body count requirement. All right? If you don't meet the limit, ladies, you don't ride this ride. Simple as that. But guys, we can't be like, oh, well, we don't have requirements. Screw that. Have standards. Stick to your standards. Stick to your principles. And if you do so, and if enough men do so, women will change because of their opportunistic nature is to find the best mate. And if they don't meet the requirement, they will make sure that they do because it's their survival is at stake.
Yes. Brilliantly said. Opportunistic, and the opportunity is not there, they will seek it. So we ultimately control that message in society.
Yeah, the stats are millennials. Now that the first millennials are hitting, the oldest are, depending on 38 to 40, 50% of millennial women will not have children in the United States.
Yeah, if you want to go really deep, I actually am of the personal belief, having lived long enough to see all the technocrats talk about the population bomb, and now to see in the last 30 years world demographics have actually gone down. What is Elon Musk's biggest fear?
Population implosion.
And yeah, that's a decline, not explosion. That's going down, because at a crash point, it's a loss of civilization.
Yeah, it's 21.
If facts, people are worried about population. Just to go into one little rabbit hole, people will say, yeah, there's too damn many people. That's like going out to a red anthill, kicking it over, and watch all the ants, say, look at all them damn ants. Okay, there are areas of the world like that, right? But if you took every single human being and threw them in the state of Texas, they'd each have like an acre to live on. There's like 9 billion acres in Texas alone. We're okay.
Yes, we are in this state.
We're okay.
Yeah.
I mean,
Texas
come
is my
on.
fantasy. Texas is my fantasy. I'll get there eventually. I'll make it.
Come
my
on,
reality.
bro.
Hey, guess where RP Thor was born? And it's not Valhalla, and it's not Jotunheim, and it's not in Iceland. Where was RP Thor born at?
The state,
Austin?
the Longhorn State.
Texas.
Hey, that's where all the X's are, bro.
None of mine, thank
Sure.
God.
Come and take it. Come and take it. Fantastic. Guys, you want to do a wrap here? We did today, we did 4, 5, and 6 of the Iron Rules of Tomassi. It was fantastic. Love talking about that stuff, because it is, I mean, he put it together so well, and it's such a deep, it touches us all on such a deep level, because we all have this programming in us, and then we all have these instincts as well of survival and procreation. So it really touches on a deep level. Hey, next week, it is looking like I'm going to have Glenn host, but it won't be on the Iron Rules unless we can do a pre-can show. We're going to pick another topic, and I'm going to throw the reins over to Glenn and Huds and Andre and Phil. We're going to pick a topic after this show, and I'll work a thumbnail to them. I have a commitment I won't be able to stream next Saturday. If something changes, I might be a guest on my own show, but that's okay. But certainly want you guys to carry the ball, and we'll storyboard that later today and put that on. So if anybody's interested, we will be going next week, but Thor may not be here. And then the following week, we will wrap up the Iron Rules of Tomassi. And then we'll be getting some good stuff coming after that. That'll be pretty fantastic as well. So with that, let's do a quick roundtable. We'll start with Phil. Final thoughts.
Final thoughts is the most important rule so far, besides number 1, is right here, guys. Number 6. Women are fundamentally incapable of loving a man in the way that a man expects to be loved by a woman. Men believe that love matters for the sake of it. Women love opportunistically. Let that sink in. Quit wearing your feelings on your sleeve. Here's the deal. Be a man and handle your business. Chase yourself and your dreams first, and the ladies are going to come. Quit wearing your feelings on the sleeve, man. You guys can find me all over social media at Phil Foster _. Man, I'm on Twitter, Facebook, Instagram. You can find me on my channel, my YouTube channel. It's the Growth Cast, but we've been doing the DragonShip here with these guys, and it's been super awesome. You can also find me at philfosterfitness.com. I do supplements, hormones, personal training. I have developed my own app. Got a men's community there. I'm for watching and my fellow man win and succeed in life, and it always starts through physicality, which your mentality chases, guys. So just be a better version of yourself tomorrow than you were today, and just keep growing.
And Phil, your links are in the description as well.
Thank you, sir.
Andre.
Guys, first rule, frame is everything. I've lived and died by that before I even knew who Rollo was. I just work on myself day in and day out. I go to bed at 12 or 3, sometimes 6 a.m. just working on myself. Some of you guys have asked to help with your approach anxiety. Sorry, I am booked. That's why I took down all my stuff. It'll be up shortly. I'm launching a product with Huds here. About texting and mindset and integration with that. Support Thor, Phil, Glenn, all the other guys, Laurence, all the other guys are here, and join the DragonShip. You need to buy Phil Foster's supplements. Go watch Glenn's movies and Glenn knock out a guy in a debate about solipsism, and read The Rational Male one more time. I'm out. There you go.
Thanks, Andre. Glenn, give us your final thoughts.
What's going on, everybody? So my final thoughts, there's a lot of wisdom here that you guys just heard in the last 2 hours and 17 minutes and 48 seconds. All right. There's a lot of wisdom to digest. And I encourage you all to take your time and don't just listen to the sound clips. Don't just listen to the sound bites that we say and the funny things that are punchlines. Take the information that we say, break it down, mold it over, analyze it, and try to apply it. All right. Because there's a lot of wisdom here. And, thanks to Rollo for creating this book, this series of books that really helps men understand where we're at. We have gotten to the point, we would have gotten there probably eventually. I don't know so much about me. I was going through a rough patch when I found his work. So for me, I was glad when I found his work. So I'm taking this blueprint that he has given us and running with it. And you guys need to do the same thing. Take that. So you can find me on Thor's DragonShip on Instagram at Glenn_Laurence_presents, or you can go to my website, GlennLawrencePresents.com. All right. You could hit me up on Instagram, YouTube, Facebook, all those thingies. But yeah, stay tuned. We got something good coming up for you guys. All right. I'm going to be taking the reins on the DragonShip next Saturday. So we're going to have some fun. And these guys are going to help run this show.
Fantastic. And there's the Thunderbolt. Guys, definite shout out to Rollo Tomassi, a good friend. Met him in Miami. Appreciate that what he has put together. We're definitely friends of his work and what he is accomplishing now. Guys, I want to do a little plugging for myself as well right now. So let's go ahead and do that. I'm going to share a quick little screen here. Guys, you want to know more about Thor? You can find it right here at becomedurable.com. This is my website. Come check it out. You can get consultations there. I also have an all-new video lecture series where I go deep. It's uncensored. There is a series on here called Mastery of Oneself. It's about creating a dominant masculine presence. Emotional durability is part 2. Mastery of Oneself is TRT myths and misconceptions and what you should know and care about your hormones. It goes into quite a bit of depth on why your body's important and why you should pay attention. You're under assault. Okay. Also, there is the Mastery of Oneself, which is principles of successful long-term relationship. That's a 2-hour lecture where I break it all down. You want to maintain it? This is where you start. And then finally, you want to cure a sexless relationship? For some reason, you want to get your girl back? Well, there is hope. You're going to have to learn some dread game. And this is where I go over what that actually means and what it doesn't mean. We've talked about it on this show before, and Dread Game is not ultimatum game. It's very different, and you got your work cut out for you. And I break it down for you guys right there. And of course, you can book your hour with me if you'd like, or you could come down and you could join the DragonShip monthly mastermind, and that's a pretty good one. That's the one where we meet once a month. You can buy it right here. It is a subscription. We have a couple dozen guys in there. You get the chance to actually present materials in there on your own, learn how to do what we're doing right here, how to improve your life in every fashion. It is a very different mastermind than most you would think of. We've actually had guys that are approaching that 7 and 8 figure range that come in and lecture us on financial opportunities and how to market, how to set up an exercise plan and a diet plan so you feel better. So it runs the gamut. We meet monthly, and it's a 3-hour meeting. I think everybody here that comes would say that's pretty damn good value. And then finally, guys, come over to Rumble. Come over to Rumble, because as soon as I can live stream, I'm going to go ahead and start putting some special content just for Rumble, because it's uncensorable. We can go a little bit further, and we'll see where it goes. So with that, I'm going to stop sharing. And guys, I appreciate you coming to the DragonShip. And remember, the DragonShip, it's all about a rising tide lifts all boats. So let's be that rising tide.